Get noises first. Just live.
We need to make a motion to approve the agenda and move it.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you all for coming out tonight to our first 2026 council meeting. Kim, if you would please call roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Webb.
Here.
Ms. Quetch.
Here.
Ms. Pillion.
Here.
Vice Mayor Austin.
Present.
And Mayor Anderson.
Here. Now, if we'll stand up, I'm going to lead everyone in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, if everyone will please remain standing, I have Pastor Steve Bond. I'm sorry about that, from Trigg Street.
Work up those Christmas
Yes,
calendars.
that's it, a little workout.
Would you bow your heads with me this evening? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come together in this new year. Lord, we pray for your blessing as we go forward into this new calendar year. We pray for wisdom. We pray for your direction. We pray for your continued safety over our employees, over our town, over the townsfolk. Lord, bless us, minister to us, give us your grace and your wisdom, and let this year be a great year. In Jesus' name we pray. And everyone said,
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Now, do I have, I need an approval for today's agenda.
I will make a motion to approve the agenda with an amendment. We need to move the noise ordinance. It is on the agenda as a second reading of the ordinance, but this is actually our first reading. So I would like to move to approve the agenda with changing item L2 to go under item K.
Second.
Any further discussion? Kim, if you'll please call roll.
Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
Ms. Pillion.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Austin.
Aye.
And Mayor Anderson.
Aye. Now, if I could get an approval for the minutes of our last council meeting for December the 1st, 2025.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Kim, if you'll please call roll.
Mr. Webb.
Let the record reflect I was absent, so nay.
Thank you. Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
Ms. Pillion.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Austin.
Aye.
And Mayor Anderson.
Aye. Now we'll move on down to, we have no public comments today. Oh, we have several people signed up for public comments today. Excuse me for that. When I call your name, if you'll please come to the podium, state your first and last name and your mailing address. The first one on the public comments today will be Miss Julianne Miles.
Hi, good evening. I'm Julianne Miles. I live at 384 Oakmont Drive in Abingdon, Virginia. I'm here to speak to you this evening, once again, about the ordinance that's a second reading tonight, about Chapter 18, peddlers, vendors, canvassers, solicitors. We're getting there. This has been a very incremental process over the last couple of months with this ordinance. There is still a piece that I take exception to, which is on page 27 of your packet, in the section, the new section that was added most recently about a right to privacy. Chapter 7, operate other than, these are exemptions, that you cannot operate other than between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. It says exempt canvassers who may operate between 9 a.m. and with 1/2 hour of sunset Monday through Saturday, including holidays. But in the very next paragraph, it says that you're prohibited from operating on state or federal holidays. That's conflicting language there. But I really want to go back to what the State Code of Virginia says. In Chapter 172, and this was approved in March 28th of 2024 by the General Assembly, where it authorizes localities to pass ordinances that regulate certain vendors. In the subparagraph under that, under C, where it lays out regulating vendors, it says Nothing herein shall be construed to apply to any person who, on behalf of any political party as defined in paragraph 24.2-101, or any political campaign required to file a report, etc., engages in providing information, opinion sampling, poll taking, or other similar canvassing activity. Canvassing should not be in this ordinance at all. It just should not be there. And I feel like I've been saying that since October, and it's still there, and it doesn't belong in this ordinance. Canvassing, something you have all done, and knocking on doors is part and parcel of running for office. And regulating you in this way, we've made progress. There were requirements for permits in the first round of this thing, and that's changed. But there are still restrictions in place that I think don't belong there. So that's all I need to say about that.
Thank you, Ms. Miles. Next up for public comment will be Ms. Lynn Manwiller. I don't know if I said your last name.
I wasn't born with it, so I'll let it go.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And let me tell you, it took me several months to learn how to spell it.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Lynn Manweller. I live at 18129 North Fork River Road. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak tonight. I'm not a town resident, but I feel passionate about this for many reasons. We many times start our conversations with friends and neighbors, and that's what we are. We're friends and we're neighbors. I felt very passionately about someone who talked to Dan and I about, my husband Dan and I, about running for Board of Supervisors this year, and I was thrilled about it. He did not end up running because of a commitment with his business and some changes, but I felt it very important to go to my neighbors and tell them about Justin because they didn't know Justin. That's what we do when we canvass. We need to bring canvassing back to our communities so that if Cam's excited about somebody that I may not know, he can tell me about that.
Cam never gets excited.
But that's beside the point. But that is my point. And I agree with Julianne. Canvassing does not need to be in this because we can stop this very easily with a very discreet sign that says no trespassing. Every single canvasser, you guys know this because you're elected officials, you can't go on a property that says that. So I have a way to stop that. Why do I have the right to tell everybody else in Abingdon that nobody else can do it either? That's my problem. We are allowing, I assume, a few people who don't want to have this happen to tell everybody else, nobody can do it for you either. And that's what I think is wrong. Did anybody actually complain? Many times, let me jump back to Joe Pickett Johnson, and I'll wrap up quickly. But lordy me, how many Rotary Club jokes were about? I still remember one about, this was before he passed away, about an accident they dreamed up, and they said, well, he was crossing the street and somebody had their window down. Because we all laughed about how Joe Pickett always shook hands. That's what we need to do. Whenever I need to know something, I go to Facebook and I say, hey guys, who's the plumber? Who's this? Who's that? We want our community to come tell us about our community members that can help us. We don't want to stop that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Heather, I can't read the last name, but is it Evans? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Heather Evans. Good to see you tonight, Heather.
Hi, everybody. My name is Heather Evans, and I live at 123 Stonewall Heights. I'm here tonight to also speak about the amendment to Chapter 18, Business Article 6. Specifically, I would like to discuss how important canvassing is to local candidates. So one of the basic tenets of democracy is for people to be informed about what's going on in their communities, and then hopefully to vote, right? Those are the two big ones. We need education, and then we need engagement. And the only real way that that happens locally is through going door to door. When I ran for office in 2023 for the school board, I did not have the name recognition that many people have in the community due to their last name or say who they're working for. I lacked that. And actually, I ended up meeting some of you as I went door to door, specifically because canvassing exists. So going door to door and meeting people one-on-one and having these conversations is actually, for me, the best part of running for office. And you'd be surprised about how many people told me that nobody had ever knocked before. Nobody had ever said they were running. Some people didn't even know there was an election going on, and they had a lot of questions. A lot of people invited me into their homes, and they wanted to chat about myself. Like, tell me about yourself. Tell me who's your family. Tell me about your job. Tell me about your kids, especially since I was running for school board. And so without canvassing, I wouldn't have had those experiences, and I wouldn't have the relationships that I do today because of that. Now, my reading of this amendment means that the town is considering limiting canvassing from 9 to 9, which, by the way, that's completely legal. But then also there's a piece of it that says canvassing cannot happen on Sundays and on holidays. So we'll return to that in a minute. So first of all, I would like to say, I think, and I'm a professor, so I believe, and I talk about politics all the time, that's my job. I think we should be encouraging every person to run for office, no matter who they are, no matter what their name is, no matter what their background is, right? I don't care if you're an incumbent. Incumbents have an advantage over people who are not incumbents. Anyone should be able to run for office. And so to do that, canvassing is really, really important for those unknown candidates. Now, the Supreme Court has also ruled that municipalities cannot restrict canvassing between 9 to 9, so we've got that, but also cannot restrict it on particular days of the week. So the Supreme Court has ruled that canvassing is legal 7 days of the week, 365 days of the year. Now, this is important for people who have jobs also outside of their positions because they don't have access to people regularly. And I noticed my time went off.
Yes, ma'am. We'll give you a couple more minutes.
Oh,
Go
well,
right
thank you.
ahead. Just
Thank you. But it's important for people who aren't known, right? Let's say they have a 9 to 5, and then they even have kids that they have sports happening in the evenings, or their grandparents and they're going to those sporting events too. Being able to have those 7 days is really important, and if you limit it to only Saturday, you're limiting how people interact with people in our community. So I would like to ask the board to consider taking out canvassing from this amendment. Thank you.
thank you. Next, we have Miss Cindy Green.
Good evening. Obviously, I will concur with what everyone else has said, but my name's Cindy Green, and I live at 1075 Clark Street, Bristol, Virginia. You might wonder, why am I here if I live in Bristol? I believe strongly in freedom of political speech. I ran for House of Delegates in this last cycle, and I plan on running again in 27. And I'm here regarding the proposed amendments to Chapter 18 that place political canvassing under the same regulatory framework as commercial solicitation. As written, the ordinance explicitly defines canvassing to include political candidates, campaign volunteers, petition circulators, and issue advocacy. It then restricts when that activity may occur and prohibits it on holidays. Political canvassing is not a business activity. It is a core First Amendment right. And the Supreme Court has, as already mentioned, has been clear that privacy concerns do not justify blanket restrictions on door-to-door political advocacy, particularly when residents already have less restrictive ways to decline speech. Again, the no trespassing. I'm asking council to clarify on the record that political canvassing is not subject to these restrictions or to amend the ordinance to clearly exclude political speech from this regulation. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, first and foremost, I'd like to thank all of you all for coming out for the public hearing, for the comments, and for the council meeting. This is what, I like to hear. I like to hear feedback from people in our community and people that are interested in what's going on. So thank you all very much for coming out for the public hearing. So right now, I would like to close the public comments. I'm gonna say, if you'll come up and state your first and your last name. I seen you walk in a little bit later once that we had called the meeting to order, but that's okay. If you will state your first and your last name and your mailing address, and go ahead with your comments, please.
I'm Catherine Abernathy.
Slide over just a little bit, ma'am.
Sorry,
There you go.
in front of that. I'm Catherine Abernathy. I live at 237 Lowland Street, Southeast. I'm one of Dwayne Anderson's neighbors, and I'm a friend of Amanda's here, and her mother. I just want to say, basically, I stand with Julianne and Cindy. I am a canvasser. I will say that many, many times, people have thanked me for coming out. There's certainly been houses where they didn't answer the door. That was fine. There have been houses when they did answer the door and say, we're not interested. That's fine. If I saw a no trespassing sign, never even walked down the driveway. But I really do hope you do not restrict this. I think this has been a very valuable service for a lot of the people that I've talked with. And I especially love when I canvassed in our neighborhood, Wayne, that I got to meet a lot of our neighbors. But it's been generally a wonderful, positive experience. I encourage a lot of my fellow citizens to do it. I think it's a great way to have that one-on-one contact with people and explained positions. And even if they don't wind up voting for my candidate, I feel better knowing that I've helped educate them, that they can make a better choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I would like to close public comment. We'll now move on. We have no proclamations today, no public hearings today, no resolutions, and as we stated before, we do have a first reading of ordinance, and that's going to be the ordinance to amend Chapter 13, Environment, Article 2, Noise, and then we have Mike Cochran to speak on that.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yes, so the current noise ordinance is written such that there's a lot of, there's nothing measurable in it. And so one of the challenges that happens with noise is what's loud to one person isn't loud to another, or maybe some people have like hearing aids and they don't hear, or they hear really well. But with most places across the country use decibel readings. That's the more common way to measure things because there's decimeters that you can purchase. They're relatively inexpensive. And then Virginia code allows for the officers to use the decimeter for sound measurement. And then you have to get them calibrated once a year, similar to like radar equipment and things that we already have. And so, but by going with the defined measurement, that way it's not like, well, it's loud to me but not loud to you, or I just don't like that kind of music. It's something it's a quantifiable measure that you can look at and you would know. And so if an officer would go to a scene, and Chief's back there, but if an officer goes to a scene and they're able to measure the noise, and that way it gives them something to go with. And I think it's, it's in the research, what we found is the majority of the communities, at least your more developed communities, are using this measurement. It's just a more standard way to do things. Because the key is that, some people are more sensitive to noise, but it lets you, it takes the subjectivity out of it, and it lets the officer have something they can hang their hat on. If they wear hats. I'm not sure if they do, but yeah, so that's what this ordinance does, and it just is meant to address the issues the way that there's no, just take some of the ambiguity out of the other way it was set up. And I think we worked with, did a fair amount of research on it, but the numbers that are in there, as far as decibel readings, they're set up. It's pretty much the standard across Virginia and across the country as far as the levels go. I looked at even like Alexandria, which is a much busier place, but their noise levels are the same. And I know the chief has also maybe done some research on it as well. And we would have to purchase the decimeters, but between now and next month we can get those. And then it's an annual calibration. Yeah, do you do the calibration in-house, or how does that work? Sorry.
Come on up, Chief. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
Yes, sir.
And the section everybody's referring to is it's 3032C. There's a chart in there by district, and it would apply to receiving properties. So if you had a residential district that was adjacent to a commercial district, the measurement would be from the residential line, and it would be from the property line. Ms. Quetch had some questions. There are some differences in there of apartments or things that are in the same building, how that would apply inside with the windows shut and that sort of thing, but this is written to be measured at the property line, so. Sorry, Chief.
So for the meters, yes, the Code of Virginia requires that we send them off for calibration and receive a certification of that calibration once a year. It would be, like Mr. Cochran said, very similar to a speed radar unit in our vehicles. We get those calibrated every 6 months. But it would be kind of the same thing. The officer would see the offense and then verify it using the meter to see exactly what number it is, and then compare that to the way that the ordinance is written before any kind of enforcement.
So I just looked up, usually we talk about legal things in here, and I have to look at Cam to explain this to me, but I get this. This is my job. So I understand what decibels mean. Finally something that's pertinent to what I do. But an example, I just looked up some examples. So a sewing machine is 60 decibels. So if you're sitting next to a sewing machine, that level of 55 decibels is about what a sewing machine would be. We had some discussion about this before, about how loud these things actually were. Sound is also not a linear increase, it's a logarithmic increase. So if you're talking about the difference between 50 decibels and 60 decibels, it's not the difference between 50 pounds and 60 pounds. It's a different scale. So that complicates things. I'm trying to find something. A power lawnmower is 65 decibels. What are the other levels? 70. I'm looking at this list.
What'd you say just then was?
Like a power lawnmower.
Power lawnmower.
Your garbage disposal is between 70 and 80 decibels, typically. Traffic. If you're in a restaurant and you're sitting in the middle of the restaurant and there's a lot of noise, it's about 85 decibels. So those are all sounds that are not harmful to your ears, but they might be annoying to you if you're hearing them for a long amount of time. This says a personal music player on high is about 112 decibels. And I don't know if you have an Apple Watch. Sometimes I've been at a ball game and had an Apple Watch on, and it'll say your sound is too loud. And so that's loud. It's too loud for a long period of time, is my point. So I am in favor of putting numbers with the ordinance, because I think it helps if somebody calls, just because we were talking about it before. So I said, if Cam starts playing music at his house and it's super loud and it annoys me one day, the next time he plays music, even if it's softer, I'm going to be just as annoyed, because I'm already annoyed at him for playing the music. So this gives this, right? So and then the next time it may be even softer, but I'm really good and mad because I've had to put up with him, and so less of a stimulus is going to annoy me more. So I think that this gives you a quantitative way to measure it and say, yeah, they're within the ordinance, so you're going to have to deal with it. Or, hey, you're out of the ordinance and you're going to have to turn it down. And I also think it'll be easier for our business owners, because if they're worried about it, then they can buy their own decimeter and they can say, hey, this is, I've already tested this. I feel comfortable knowing that this band is playing at a proper level, or this music is a proper level. So I think this is a great addition to this ordinance.
I'm not opposed to the addition to the ordinance, but I am what we call a business owner here in the town of Abingdon. I'm one of those people that, like, I would like to hear what that maximum volume is with my ears, so that I could pass that along to my employees at my restaurant, or other people who have establishments in the town of Abingdon that are interested in playing music as well. I have no problems with the number decimal, but I would like to hear that before I make a decision on saying yes or no on this. I would like to personally hear what the maximum volume is before casting my vote on this or having my input on this. That's just me.
And I told members of council they can come by my office and I'll put them in the sound booth and play sounds for them at different levels, so that they can, and I'll do it for whoever, so that you can hear, although that will be a different experience than, because it'll be in a sound booth and it'll be in a completely quiet environment and right at your ear. So it'll be a different experience than, say, standing in, the middle of your restaurant when there's a band. It's going to be a different way, but it'll give you an idea.
I'm also not opposed to, with me being a business owner and me being the mayor here in the town of Abingdon, once we get the decimals here, to bring the equipment to Dwayne and Company, and let's try it out, and let's see what that volume is, to where we can all, I invite everyone on the council, I invite everyone to come and let's try this out and see what that maximum volume is
I
playing
think
at
they
a
got these numbers from other communities.
Oh, for
right?
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the standard fare
Yeah.
across the,
But I would just personally like to hear what that,
I agree.
what
I'd
that
like to
maximum
go too.
volume is, so that way, like, I can pinpoint that myself and maybe pass that on to fellow business owners that play music in the town of Abington as well. That's just me.
You know, this issue came before us, I know, several months ago for consideration. And at that point in time, we had a number of members of the community here, some in favor of changing the time for the noise ordinance, and some opposed to that. And we sat and we listened to that very carefully. At the conclusion of that, we altered the time period that music could be played. And I left at that time thinking we'd reached a compromise that everyone was in agreement with and that everyone could live with. Apparently that's not the case, but there was one gentleman from the community that kept talking about what a balancing act this is. And it is
Yes.
for the council. It's
Yes, it is.
for anyone. It's a balancing act. We've got residential property, and we respect that, and we respect the idea that people have a right to the quiet enjoyment of their home. But we also have businesses in town that depend upon this type of activity in order to survive. And it's, again, a very careful balancing act, because if you start to look at some of the restaurants in town, for example, right now, you know, we've got 2, 3, 4 maybe that have closed, and we certainly don't want to close our doors to being a friendly community for reasonable music to be played and that sort of thing. So, again, I think we have to be very careful. I do like what Ms. Pillion said, that I think it's, you know, it's probably a good idea to quantify it in some fashion, because all of us have different sensitivities. You know, what might offend me doesn't offend you, and vice versa. That goes with music, that goes with the type of music that's being played, and the list goes on and on. But I do like the idea of, I call it a science experiment. I'd love to be able to go to the mayor's place of business and to listen to the sound and to walk outside and walk down the street both directions and see what the tolerance that I personally would have for it before I considered this. And for those reasons, I'd like to make a motion that we table this for tonight and give us an opportunity to look into this a little more carefully.
Just first reading, so you could
Yeah,
just
it's just a
let
first
it pass over.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want to fast track it even with that at this point in
Okay.
time. I understand. I want, and something else that I think is very important. We've had a lot of people here tonight to talk with us about this one ordinance that we're considering. I'm not sure that and I know that this is all public record, but I'm not sure that it's well known that this is back for consideration tonight. And I'd like to give the opportunity for residents in the area to come in and also address council about it.
And as well as business owners as well too,
Exactly.
that have restaurants or have an establishment, that they are, like you said, they are relying on the music to come in to bring people into their establishments to keep their employees fed and keep themselves fed as well. So I think that's a good point that you've reached on there, Vice Mayor Austin.
So you made a motion there.
I made a motion to table it for tonight's meeting.
Do I have a second?
I mean, I could second that.
Any further discussion? Kim, if you'll please call roll.
Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
Ms. Pillion.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Austin.
Aye.
And Mayor Anderson.
Aye. And now we'll be moving on to the second reading of ordinance, and that's going to be the ordinance to repeal, amend, and reenact Chapter 18, Business, Article 6, peddlers, vendors, canvassers, solicitors, food and beverage vendors, including fair and festival. We have Mike Cochran and Cam Bell to speak on that.
So I'll put it to you guys. Obviously, there's some passionate people that think that this shouldn't apply to canvassers at all. If council was inclined to amend that section, we can pass it over again and try to come up with some other language. I appreciate the comments. The First Amendment, of course, isn't unlimited. The Supreme Court has ruled that governing bodies can pass ordinances, for instance, that limit time, manner, and place. That's what this applies to. Some examples that you guys are familiar with: you can't put signs in the right-of-way, you can't have political speech within X number of feet of polling place, that sort of thing. That's along the lines of what this would entail. I don't expect that any of these canvassers expect to show up at your house at midnight on a Sunday, but that's what this technically would limit. But it's up to you guys. I don't know at the present time if the risk of canvassers going outside of this limit is enough to argue about. But it's up to you guys if you want to include canvassers in that provision or not.
I have no problem with provision, except for I do feel, after hearing what people have said and after thinking about it, I have no problem with allowing canvassing on Sundays. As I sit and think about it, I have probably canvassed on Sundays. When I recall, when I ran for town council, I didn't canvass because it was during COVID, so I made phone calls. But I have canvassed quite a bit for my husband, and I know that we have done it I know that we did it on Sundays. And I feel strongly that nobody's going to be out at 9 p.m. knocking on people's doors because it's not safe. But it's always a balancing act for people knocking on doors. You don't want to wake people up, so you try to do it in the middle of the day, but it's difficult because you have to work. And so if you only have Saturday and Sunday to do it, I have no problem with removing Sunday from the ordinance.
I have no problem with moving Sunday as well too. With me, the type of business that I work in, the restaurant business, before I started Dwayne and Company, I was actually off on Saturdays and Sundays. And when I was going knocking door to door, those were the times that I was doing that. And on Sundays, basically, I was eliminating that time for people to go to church. And then after church, my times on Sunday were probably 2 to maybe 4:30, 5 o'clock. I didn't get a whole lot of canvassing done in that hour, but that's pretty much. After 4:30, 5 o'clock, I felt like, I have kids myself. I felt like people were getting ready to start their weekend or their daily week. So 4 o'clock was the limit. 4:30, 5 o'clock was the limit. I didn't want to bother anybody after 4:30. And I can say that I was canvassing on Sundays. I was canvassing at my church. I was canvassing, the lady here, that's my neighbor. I was canvassing Sunday, Saturday, and Sunday afternoon. So I have no problem with taking that out.
And I don't think we want to limit. I don't think we want to prohibit canvassing.
Yes.
I think we just want to have. Over my time on council, I have found that, just like with the noise ordinance, sometimes it's a good idea to have things in writing and to have a policy, so if something happens, you have a guide to go by. And I think that that's the intent of this ordinance. I don't think the intent is to restrict canvassing or prevent canvassing at all. It's not from my point of view. Like I said, I've done a fair amount of it, and I have the ultimate respect. If anybody knocks on my door from representing any political candidate, I'm going to talk to them because I know what it's like to be on the other side.
Can we remove that language?
Well,
Canvassing entirely.
Yeah.
it seems to me, rather than fight about it, that we eliminate that from the ordinance and see if it becomes a problem, and if it becomes a problem, then we can amend that section to something else.
I think that's a good
So
idea.
how about in that section 7, just so we're clear, except for exempt canvassers, peddlers, solicitors, or vendors to whom this ordinance does not apply. Is that all right?
But let me say I apologize to you, Mr. Bell. You asked me at an earlier meeting today if I had any problem with this particular ordinance, and I did not respond to you that I did, and so for that I apologize.
Same.
But after listening to these folks talk about it and rereading it, they've convinced me that we need to remove canvassing from it.
And that's me as well. That's me as well too. I feel the same way as well too. You know, like we said, we were in another meeting with Cam earlier, and we were kind of running this back and forth. And like, you know, I'm all about the people. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for the people that are here in what I call the peanut gallery right now. So I appreciate you all coming out and voicing your opinions to help with the decision on the decision making here. And if we had more of this, we would have less argumentation, or with us just passing something here and then 2 days later it would be upsetting to you, him, her, or anybody like that. So I mean, you know, we serve the people. We're here for the people, and I just want the people to know that the council do hear where you all are coming from.
Yeah, and just on this whole thing, the objective for this has nothing to do with political candidates. or
Yes,
religious
that's right.
candidates. Everything was about people going door to door trying to sell you stuff you don't want.
And I think some of the people got the wrong impression about
For sure,
that,
yeah.
and they took it more towards canvassing.
Oh, no, I
as
understand
political.
I understand where it come from, but yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
that, like Mike Cochran was saying, this wasn't brought up for that purpose. We just want you to know that the purpose that it was kind of set up, that the way that I was taking it, was for elders in our community, that people were knocking on their doors and maybe taking advantage of elders in our communities. And that's just Mike Cochran and the council looking out for citizens in the town of Abilene. And I think that it kind of got played out to where we're at right now. And we want to straighten this out. And we will get this straightened out.
So Cam, what do we need to do for a
I
motion?
think just somebody needs to make a motion to adopt the ordinance with the changes I suggested.
So just to be clear, we're removing canvassing altogether, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Technically, we're amending it as presented, 18-144B7 for the reasons I said.
And we can remove the definition section even.
It would be anything
Let's
pertaining
just
to
remove the
canvassing,
C
right?
word from it. If it's not prohibited, we don't need to define it.
I think there are other, and I was looking at the definition of canvasser, I think it's a little bit broader than political in the definition. There is a different section where it says which ones are exempt. Which is in 18-132-4.
This is definition for 131.
I mean, I'm looking at the definition of it here now, and it talks about petitions seeking signatures, political candidates.
It
also talks about charitable nonprofit organizations.
Any cause, issue, or religion. But, yeah, if you just want to strike canvasser altogether, then.
Yeah, I think it's safer just to strike it all altogether. If my initial motion reflects that, then that's what.
No, but in addition to that, and then so I'm going to strike every reference to canvasser in all the ordinances.
Yes, that's what I was
in
going
that
for.
article.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Derek, you made a motion,
Right. To strike all
Donna
canvas
second.
referencing it.
and Donna seconded that. Any further discussion? Cam?
Nope.
Any further discussion, council?
No, sir.
Kim, if you'll please call roll.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Austin?
Aye.
And Mayor Anderson?
Aye. So now we'll move down. We have no consideration of bids tonight. We do have some new business, and that new business is discussing discussing regarding acceptance of a grant from the Wellspring Foundation of Southwest Virginia for funding the Virginia Creeper Trail Trestle maintenance. And we'll have Mike Cochran speak about that.
Yes, sorry, I didn't get my pages together. A couple weeks ago, the Wellspring Board had contacted me. After the storm, we started trying to do an in-depth assessment of the trestles because we own the ones between here and Damascus. And so anyway, we wanted to make sure that they were safe and all that. So the company that did the inspections for them identified some things that needed to get fixed in a shorter time frame. And so their board had offered to go ahead and pay for those immediate repairs in the amount of, was it $1,068,000, I believe was the amount. And because it's deemed to be an emergency, Prosom Engineering had already put it out to bid because they're deemed to be emergency repairs. They're in conformance with our procurement process. But basically, there's no match to it whatsoever, and it allows us to get them fixed right away. And they should, if everything goes according to plan, it'll be finished before tourist season ramps back up. So it's a nice thing. It needed to happen. It's just a lot of work that needs to get done. And so basically, it's just accepting the $1,068,000. It's a reimbursement, so we have to put the money out in order to get the money back. But they're usually pretty quick about turning that around. And the company that's actually going to be doing it, they've already done work on the trestles before. There's two of them that are pretty adept with working with it and actually working together on this one. So the nice thing is we're just extremely grateful to have folks like Wellspring in the community that are more than willing to help make it happen for us. So yeah, with no match, it's literally just accepting the money.
So do we need a motion to accept it? Or
Yeah.
Yes, I think we do need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? Kim, if you'll please call roll.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Austin?
Aye.
And Mayor Anderson.
Aye. And like Mike Cochran said, we are blessed to have the Wellspring Foundation here in our community helping back us with the rebuild of the Virginia Creeper Trail and all that they do for the town of Adams. So thank you to the Wellspring Foundation. Okay, now we will move on to, we don't have any old business. We have miscellaneous business and communication from our town manager, Mr. Mike Cochran.
It's 2026. Yeah, no, I think, just hope everybody had a great, safe, happy holiday. I know it's just been exceedingly busy on a lot of different fronts, and I don't have a massive amount prepared other than, I'm just very appreciative of town staff. They really have been able to make it happen for us. We had a couple unexpected ice storms or snowstorms or precipitation events when it was freezing, and our public works guys were able to step up there. And one other thing was that they've been able to really make happen for us is after Christmas, they did trash pickups, like when they weren't scheduled trash pickups, just to get the trash. And they really stepped out of the way. And I know that's one of the things our public works guys do. You've seen the grapple out probably more than normal, and you've seen the trash trucks out. And so they're very good about trying to make sure that stuff gets picked up. So I do want to say thanks to Public Works and police and fire, too. I know the fire, they've been super busy with fires, which is why they're firemen. But the police have the police have been really working hard, too. Everybody's been busy, but it's been a great holiday so far as New Year's Eve, and everything went pretty good for everybody. So that said, I really don't have a ton other than, hope everybody.
Other than the 4-hour speech that you gave earlier today?
That was only 3.5. Yeah. But anyway, that said, there was a lot going on. But we're just very, very fortunate to have the community that we have and the amount of support that we have, because we have a lot of really fun things happening in town. And if anybody watching hasn't heard that we've finished the playground, you got to take your grandkids up there and go to the playground. Even if you don't have grandkids, just go up there to see what it looks like. I don't have grandkids, but that said, I still have kids, but they're get big. But that said, it's an amazing playground. I went up there. My daughter was in town. I went up there the day or so after Christmas, and I just had to show it to them. And anyway, they were like, "Wow, you know, and they live out in Bellevue, Washington, where they have a lot of money and a lot of playgrounds, but nothing like that. And it really is it's an amazing thing. I know it'll be something that people will talk about for generations, and you know, it really is amazing. So thanks for everybody to help make that happen as well. Again, that was Wellspring, but there was also a lot of elbow grease. And there was a couple months there where Public Works was not so happy with me because they were up there working while their main projects were getting sidelined because the playground had to get done. So it is done. And then one last bit is the pickleball courts. There was an unexpected emergency in the contractor's family, and they cannot finish the pickleball conversion until it gets warm. So Kyle is working on getting some temporary pickleball nets because if you can't play pickleball, the world's going downhill.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to get those things up there pretty soon. So and everything's working well. So it's fun, exciting. I have.
I just want to kind of piggyback on what Mike said with the Public Works. I had received an email from someone who lives on Stonewall Heights. The weather was kind of warm after Christmas. We all know that, and they had several leaves in their yard. They're a little bit older, and they got the leaves out to the side of the road, not once but twice in one day. And Public Works, like you said, was out and about. They picked them up early in the morning. They picked them up later in the afternoon. And I'm just going to say the Bradleys were very thankful of Public Works for what they do. And I can also say in my neighborhood as well, you know, it was Christmas time. Our trash was a little bit heavier than what it usually is with boxes and so forth. And, you know, I live on Highland Street, and Public Works is on Kings Mountain Drive. And I felt like that every time that they went out to go to another neighborhood, they would do a clean sweeper in my neighborhood. So a big shout out to Public Works for everything that they've done the month of December, and the fire department and the police force as well too.
No, if I can just add one pro tip, I picked this up because I have two containers. I got like a 5-step ladder, and it's embarrassing, so there's no pictures of it. But I stand on the trash, and it really helps compact it in there.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'll add to that and say that my mother lives in outside of the town of Abingdon, and she has a trash pickup company, and she gets charged if her trash doesn't fit in her trash can. So her trash can didn't completely close the other day, and she got a warning letter saying next time they would get charged. So I know not everybody, but often people complain about having to pay for trash service in the town of Abingdon, but aren't we fortunate that we have such a great public works department, because my trash is often overflowing. So I'm very grateful that I don't get fined when that happens, and that they just take care of it for me.
I can show you how to use the step ladder.
You're a lot taller than me. I would get in there and not be able to get out.
Vice Mayor Austin, do you have any comments?
I have no report, thank you.
Ms. Donna?
I just like to wish everybody a Happy New Year. And we had a council retreat today. We spent hours together, sort of making plans for 2026 and discussing the progress we made in 2025. So I'm looking forward to all that.
Derek? All right. Now we'll move on to reappointments to boards and committees. And we have the Veterans Advisory Board. We have to fill the vacancy of Clint Harris, whose term has expired, and the vacancy of Dickie Kaiser, who has is an unexpired term but is stepping away. And I think that we have.
I think we have 3 applicants, but I think 2 of them are residents of the town.
Yes.
And I know we have had a policy in the past of wanting to fill those, if possible, with town.
Yes, and I'm on board with that. And or the.
I just see 2.
That would be Laura Mitchell and Bernard Miles Jr., town residents.
Yes. Do we have more than 2 applicants?
Yes, we have 3.
We have 3.
Is this also?
Isaiah Ellison is
He doesn't live in the town. You know, I personally like Isaiah myself, but, you know, as Vice Mayor Austin.
He has not applied to the Veterans Advisory Board.
What do you apply for?
He applied for Board of Building Code Appeals, the HPRB, the Planning Commission, Sinking Springs Cemetery Committee and the Tourism Advisory Committee, but he did not mark Veterans Advisory Board. So it appears, and I just want to bring something up, not to take away from anybody's application, but I don't know if this is something that we've run across before, but one of the applicants is the spouse of a current member of the board. And so I don't know if that is an issue if we have two people from one household voting on something. Is that an issue?
It's just an advisory board. I don't think there's any rule against that.
Okay, I just wanted to check.
Thank you for bringing that up.
So if we have two applicants in two spots,
I think
That's
it-
right.
Yeah.
So we'll just appoint those two.
Well, with
Motion to appoint Laura Mitchell to the vacancy of Clint Harris, and a motion to appoint Vernon Miles Jr. to the unexpired term of Dickie Kaiser.
Second that.
Any further discussion? Kim, if you'll please call roll.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
aye.
Vice Mayor Austin?
Aye.
And Mayor Anderson.
Aye. And with that being said, we'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming out tonight.
Thank you.